Welcome to JHGWoodCraft. I'm Jedi. And in today's episode, we're going to do a tool review as well as a glue up. So the tool review is going to be the Rockler Panel Clamps. So these are the big boys. There's a smaller version of that also. Let's first talk about kind of some of the features of it and how it's put together. So a few things. First is the way the clamps come apart. It's just these two large bars. Sure, that was fun on the video. They slide out these locking rails. The way they're held together, that they're pulled together, these are the clamps. And so what happens is as you tighten this down, it allows these to loosen up. They're pushing down on your material, and this pushes your material straight out, which works out pretty well, although there's a few caveats that we'll touch on as we go. The other thing that's I've found both really cool and an annoyance is the legs. Legs are way cool in that they just go in, they're magnetic, they'll fit wherever you want. Awesome, right? Until you try and drag your thing around. So I have a small shop, so what I end up doing is doing a glue up and then moving it out of the way somewhere else so I have this specific workspace to work on. Well, to do that, what happens is a lot of times you slide these around. If your surface isn't 100% flat, just catches on something, these things start moving on you, right? Start moving on you. And if you got a panel in there, then after a while, then the panel's doing this. So something to be aware of. One way of helping to reduce some of that possibility is move your leg to one side or the other of the clamp, depending on which way you might be moving it. I keep mine right there, so behind this guy, and then we'll typically have this one in front of wherever that next clamp is going to go. So cool and a not so cool feature. By the way, all of these, so this review, I'm not sponsored by Rockler, at least not yet, unless they want to. Regardless, any review I do, 100% honest, and wouldn't matter if it was sponsored or not. I'm going to give what I feel about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Okay, so let's slap this guy together, and then we'll go through the actual glue up, right? Okay, so get this backwards. No, I don't. One without the handle goes where the little teeth are. The side with the handle goes on these little nubs here, these flat spots. Now, a couple things, so we put that together. A really nice feature of this, so pull this out a little bit, makes these stay open as you pull that out, so it's easier to slide this guy in and out. All right, so we kind of got that a little bit open, or I can pull it off, get out of the way. So one of the really cool features about this is for layout. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way, just push it back, loosen this up. You can just shove it forward and it'll bounce past all of them like you saw earlier, or lift that side and pull it. Sorry about some of the banging noise. So when I do a glue up, one of the things I really like about these is that surface, because it gives me a nice flat area to put everything. So as we put these guys up, let's grab a couple of them now. In this glue up in particular, right, put my marks, here we go. In this glue up in particular, I am going to use biscuits to add some additional strength. I normally wouldn't, mostly because most the tops would be on once the surface is built, it's mounted down and it's not really going anywhere other than its normal expansion contraction that wood does. In this case, I've got a gaming table with removable top, so it's a trifold. or tri-piece. So I've got 3 different tops that will likely be moved off and on quite a bit. So I want to have that extra stability that the biscuits will give me, especially as the thing may get moved around, racked, etc. So these guys up here, got all my alignments. And last one. This guy back out of the way. So gives me a nice flat surface to get everything lined up on. I can then take this guy here. If I wasn't good, I'd be banging it against that. So I'll pull this in a latch. We'll stick this guy on here at the end. So in order to adjust this, it's just simply push this to where it needs to go. So it's fairly quick in readjusting it. This side is where your final is going to go. It ties in here. You got that on that hole. There we go. Nice little snap in. So you can see it's kind of just sitting there on the top of the material. Initially, so I tried to do it with just one of these guys, which you can do. You're going to need more clamps, but that's one of the caveats. I will say that if you've done a lot of glue ups, more clamps are almost always better. I would not say that these are going to completely replace all of your other clamps. I'd love to be able to say that, hey, get these 2, and that's all you're going to need for this project. That is not the case. So we'd still have everything laid out here. I'll come back and do a fast forward glue up, but I wanted to give you the highlights here as we'd go through it. So I got my lines where they're going to sit. I'll pull this here in till it won't pull in any further. And then at that point, all the tightening happens from this end. I'm going to do the same thing on both of them. Okay, and I always like to have things happen a little evenly. So we're going to kind of try and line them up together. Looks like this one's got a little more to go than that one. Now, obviously, you want to have everything heat up here. Here's the other thing that I made an assumption when I got these, that this was going to have all my downward pressure as well, which it does have downward pressure. However, it's not so much that it is always going to pull everything perfectly straight. It does almost entirely avoid those issues. Actually, it pretty much does avoid those issues of when you're clamping, where your pieces may come together, and then as you start adding pressure, if those clamps are up just a little bit one way or the other, there's a good chance that board's going to do this or this, right? With these clamps, that doesn't happen. What can happen, however, is you end up with your pieces can move a little bit. This doesn't guarantee it stays 100% flat. I'm going to have to go back through, even after adding the clamp, even with that downward pressure, and make sure that I've got good alignment on all of my seams. It'll be a little bit easier in this case because I've got the biscuits, so they're going to do some of the alignment for me, but I still have to do an alignment. This will keep it from bouncing around. It will hold it flat, but it doesn't pinch down as tight as, say, another clamp on the ends will do, which in this case I will be using. That's the other gotcha behind these. This is not going to replace all of your other clamps. This will make the initial pull-in, glue-up portion easier. It will keep it from buckling, which is awesome. So I do recommend them. However, just don't have in mind that these will be the only clamps you need again. Because what you're going to find when you go through and I do my full glue up is I'm going to have another clamp here, I'm going to have one here, I'm going to have one here, I'm going to have them on the ends, just as I would do if I didn't have these panel clamps. You might ask, well, what if you threw in another 3 panel clamps? Put one here, put one here, put one here. That would definitely help and would eliminate those additional 3 lengthwise. However, because like I mentioned with this doesn't get it exactly, doesn't put as much pressure as I would like against here. And it's just the nature of the beast. So these aren't always perfectly aligned. That one right there, I have to go in. Now it's good. This one, now it's good, but it wasn't good to begin with. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll show you what the glue up looks like, and then we will, once the glue up is dried, we'll do a disconnect also. So let's get started on the fast forward. I'm going to do a double review because there's this other item that I love on my glue ups, and that is a silicone brush. The biggest reason for this is once that glue is dry, you just kind of rock this back and forth and pull that glue off as a full chunk. Now it's going to make a liar of me and not come off as one chunk. It's going to come off as multiple chunks, but it does come right out of that brush. There we go. There's the chunk. And now I got a clean brush. So definitely recommend these. You can get them from Rockler. You can get them online at Amazon and such. I'll put some affiliate links in the description, but really cool for that purpose. Super easy to clean, reusable. And when you're done with it during a project, you just stick it on a towel so it doesn't make a mess and then pull the glue off later. If I leave that video, or that portion of this in the video, this had a little bit of a grainy look. I was making sure that our temperature changes hadn't caused my glue to go bad. You can also tell by smell if your glue's gone bad, because it can go bad. One of the things that it does here in Central Texas is if it gets too hot and then gets really too cold, that happens. So we definitely have temperatures, although my garage is mostly climate controlled. As long as I'm working, it's climate controlled. So looks like it's okay, but that's what I was doing, was double checking that. All right, with that, speed run's about to begin. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, speed run of glue up is done. I'm going to let it dry just a little bit, and then I like to go and scrape these areas where the glue is. Get it before it's completely dry, but while it's still soft, because then I can pull off the pieces without smearing it. But if I do it too soon, it will just smear it, and then I end up having to sand the wood down even further because then it's gone out to either side into the grain of the wood. So anyway, you can see how, yes, worked great holding these pieces straight. That initial connection point, awesome. But it definitely needs the rest of the clamps. I think actually only had one end where I have a little bit of concern about it. Everything else was pretty straight. I'm a paranoid person, I guess, so I still clamp up all my ends. Want to make sure they're pulled in all places so it's evenly clamped in. The glue I used is the slower drying glue. One of the reasons I used it for this one is because that not only it is a little slower, but it's also a stronger glue and better against water. And also when I'm doing these glue ups and I put in the biscuits, I like it to have less chance of setting up before I get everything pulled together. So that's where we're at. I will be back for you in seconds. For me, 24 hours.
24 hours later.
And pow, just like that, we're back. It's been 24 hours, seconds for you. We're going to go ahead and pull the clamps off now and see how our lines look. So far, I've got, until there's a couple areas where, yeah, it's not 100% alignment. It's not far off. It's like within a 64th or even less, but I'm picky about that. It's got to be perfect. When it's not perfect, that just means I got to sand it a little bit to get it perfect. So pull all of our clamps off here. And I'm just kind of reversing the order from before. Cool. That's okay. All right, so now we pull our Rockler clamps off. You can see how easy or difficult that is to pull them. Just simply loosen these guys. Now, one of the things I like about these, if I pull it far enough, I could, at this point, I could pull them off and lift the bottom and then push down the top, or pull the top and the bottom and pull them out. But even easier, if I keep pulling this rod back, eventually it'll hit the clamp and pop it open for me. So it's lifting both top and bottom. Super easy to pull it off that way. All right, and then the back side, you've got on both sides of the clamp, you're going to have these little pins that you can push up. You can just grab it here too, but it actually has a place to grab it, put your finger, push that up, pull that out. If you go this way, that's going to end up falling because I know myself. Put that there. But I could push it this way too, doesn't really matter. Direction in this case is irrelevant. All right, just pull this guy out. So, a couple things. See the board's nice and glued up on this side. I don't have as much to clean up because I do most of the cleanup as it's drying, so I don't have as much to do. This side, got a little more to do, a little more work. But overall, pretty happy with the progress. Don't have any areas that look like they're pulled out. It's nice and tight. Like I said, I do have a little bit of, I definitely got some cleanup to do. That's normal. And then I got to finish my edges. Right. Done and out of the way. So, and looks like got a little bit of glue here on the clamps, but look, just a little bit of a finger scrape and those are gone. So real easy cleanup when you do get glue on it, which I'm assuming you will because you're gluing up boards. If you're not getting glue on it, yeah, probably didn't put enough glue because you definitely want that squeeze out. So let's talk about the pros and cons. So On the con side, they're, and I don't know that, I'm not even saying that they claim that they are, but they really can't be used by themselves unless you had several of them. And I'd need, for this project, I'd probably want 5 of them to do what I just did. And even then, I'm still want clamps on my end pieces. Maybe that's just my over excitement around getting it all clamped up and make sure everything's perfect. So that is, I guess, if you want to put in the con space. The other, I guess, is they're heavy, right? They're not crazy heavy, but they're definitely got some heft to them. They're kind of big, so you got to find a place to put them. Rockler does make a nice little hang-up clamp, and I'll show you a picture over here of what that looks like when they're hung up. The good about it, I mean, they're nice solid surface to put your material on. Does hold the whole thing flat. By far my favorite part about it is how easy it is to get it flat and not have to worry about buckling. I guess going back to the con list, it doesn't completely always make sure it's flat. You do sometimes have to still adjust your joints, push them down, pull them up, just like I said, fractions, but it's still enough that it's not perfect on its own. That's just kind of probably just nature of the beast. And I guess like the last thing about it, both the pro and, well, not last yet, pro and con. Again, these magnetic feet are great for being able to move around. They also stink when you're trying to move the thing and slide it across the surface because they tend to catch and move with it instead of sticking on here where you want it, and then you end up with a cantilever. Actually, even after I talked about it, ended up with that problem on this project. Love how easy they come off. I guess the other downside, you want to call it that, would be the price. They're definitely not the cheapest in the place of clamps, but I think having a couple of them, if I hadn't done it, if I didn't have them already, knowing what I do now, I'd probably still get a couple of them. I wouldn't try and replace all my clamps. They have a very specific use, but I think they do their job well along with your other clamps. But get a couple of these and then get some cheap ones to do up the sides and fill in the middle, and you're good to go. So that is my Rockler panel clamp review. If you have experience with them and want to share it, feel free to put it in the comments. If this is useful to you, let me know. And if you want other tool reviews, we'll do those as well. With that, you all have a great week, and I'm going to go have me a drink. I realized at the end of that video, what I didn't cover is, do you need these clamps to do that kind of glue up? The short answer is no. You absolutely do not. You can go with a much cheaper solution of using bar clamps. They will do the job just fine. I'll tell you that with many of my Rockler tools, I love them. With few exceptions, I'm super happy with them. But they tend to be tools that make my life easier, not tools that I always have to have. So rarely do they replace other things in my workshop. Every once in a while, but most of the time, they're convenience tools. They're gonna, or jigs, or clamps, other things that are gonna help me do my job better and do it more efficiently. So would I say that those help? The panel clamps help with efficiency? Absolutely. Do you need them to be able to do the job? Not at all. So just wanted to give that additional little bit, and gives me an excuse to have another drink. Y'all have a great day.